You're listening to the Back Porch Talk podcast. Danny and Jason had many discussions and debates on the back porch while making pivotal investment moves with assets. That's right, with trading cards. They welcome you to the back porch and right into those discussions about current sports news with a fresh and unique twist. So come on and join us. Welcome to the Back Porch Talk podcast. I'm your co-host, Jason.
Your co-host, Danny.
Fans, we got a full show for you today. March Madness is over. The results and a little bit about the NBA and a little bit about Formula One. But first, Danny, right into championship games of both the women's and men's. First, starting off with that of the South Carolina Gamecocks beating the Iowa Hawkeyes. South Carolina is perfect, 38-0 for the season. For Dawn Staley's third championship in South Carolina. And we can just say this, Danny, I think they're a dynasty. And the way that this was an outstanding game to start off with. Let me just first say that the very first quarter, Caitlin Clark, man, just go off for 18 in the first quarter. It was amazing. Gamecocks only scored 20 points that first quarter, so Caitlin Clark, 18, South Carolina Gamecocks, 20 in the first quarter. But oh boy, did the Gamecocks come back, man. And they just proceeded to go ahead and have a defensive strategy the rest of the way on Caitlin Clark. Just as I said that Caitlin started off with 18 points in the first quarter, she ended up with 30 points. So she had 12 points the rest of the way. The Gamecocks defense was wicked on Caitlin Clark. And they really shut down the rest of the team. And I'll just say this still too, Danny. The bench, there was no help from the bench. The scoring for the Iowa Hawkeyes all came from the starters versus that of South Carolina, in where the bench was a tremendous help. You had 19 from Tessa Johnson, who, in my opinion, man, really saved the Gamecocks in this game. Her consistent scoring was crucial in the Gamecocks coming back here. But then you had 9 points from Phil Wiley, and then you had Thiegen with 6, and then you had Watkins with 3. So that bench ended up with about 38 or so points, man. And Cordosa, 6-7 from Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
And her last game as well. And it just wicked, man. So you got to give kudos and props to Dawn Staley and also to the ladies of South Carolina. What say you, Danny, about this game?
This one, Jason, Iowa missed a golden opportunity at the beginning in that second quarter to really put South Carolina away, because the way that game started, South Carolina was rattled because Iowa came out firing, like hitting everything, and South Carolina couldn't hit the broadside of a barn. So
listen, I don't know what oil is hotter, fish grease or the way that Iowa came out. Whichever is hotter, that's how hot they were in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm. And they were winning 20-5. And then South Carolina kept chipping away. And second quarter, same thing, kept chipping away. And then at the end of that first half, there's that key steal where Raven Johnson picked Caitlin Clark's pocket. Mm-hmm. And South Carolina went up 3 at half. And it was South Carolina carried that momentum in the second half. And every time they took a lead, though, Iowa came back. And even in that fourth quarter, Iowa was down 14, and they cut it to 4. Mm-hmm. And Tessa Johnson, who I thought was the MVP of the game personally, because she has some huge threes and
huge shots. Yep.
And as a freshman, she wasn't even rattled. She played like it was like she was a senior. She wasn't scared of the moment, and not to say Cardoso, she had a big impact because she's dominating that middle, and she impacted a lot of shots and blocked 3 shots from Iowa's on Iowa side. But yeah, congratulations to Dawn Staley, Caitlin Clark. To start the way she did, man, I thought she was gonna put up 50 straight up because she was on. But then they started face guarding her. Congratulations to South Carolina. They graduated 5 WNBA players last year. Cardoso will be going to the league. Pick between they're saying maybe up top 4. So she's going to be a huge loss. But these freshmen got valuable minutes in this game that they can carry forward next year. And Dawn Staley's going with the portal. People are going to be clamoring to play for her. After we've known Dawn Staley since she was playing college ball.
Right.
She's been consistent, and she's just class act. So congratulations to her and her team.
And now, Danny, on to the men's side, and where the UConn Huskies prevail 75-60 against the Purdue Boilermakers. Let me just say, man, this was a game for you. I was really looking forward to the matchup, especially between Klingon and also Edey. Edey ends up with 37 points. He had a big night, but like I said, Boilermakers only scored 60. Didn't have too much help. The only other teammate that was in double figures was Smith, who started. The bench only had 2 points. What I really noticed with UConn is how defensive minded that they are, especially when they decide to hone in on that. I think it took them a while to get used to the size of Edey. Edey was taking advantage at the beginning of the game. Got clinging into foul trouble. The Boilermakers needed some additional help, additional scores. But that defense was wicked, man. When you think about the 3-point shots that Purdue typically shoots, they only shot, get this, Danny, they only shot 7 3-pointers.
Mm-hmm.
They only made 14%. That to me shows just the defensive presence on the wings. Now, keep in mind, this is something that I mentioned earlier on. I thought, and maybe it was just through a text message or whatever, but I thought that UConn Huskies wing defenders, that their guard play was going to be better than the Purdue Boilermakers guard play. The forwards, I was leaning a little bit towards. I think that was kind of a toss up. Down low, I think that was kind of a toss up. I just didn't know how that was going to do there. I think Klingon's a little bit more athletic than Edey. Edey is crafty. I think he's going to have to work on his foot game a little bit in the pros. I think Klingon's going to get stronger, and I think he's going to get better. And I think he would actually be a good pick up for somebody. Congratulations to Purdue for making it, but UConn, they go ahead and repeat, man. What say you about this game, Danny?
Another game where Purdue started off hot and UConn went on that run, man. They've done it all tournament. Like you said, it's kind of a feel-out process. And the way Edey was playing, they was more or less let him get his and shut everyone else down. And that's what they did. And I look at the game, and it was one of those things where UConn's just perimeter defense, the scoring on the perimeter from their guards. I want to see who's going to leave. Klingon will leave, and who else may enter the draft. So if it's Newton or Castle, but and we'll see how they retool and reload. The game got a little out of hand in the second half. Purdue tried to make a little run there, but congratulations to the Huskies. I will say this though, man, it was funny for those who watched the game. They did this highlight with Akeem Olajuwon and Patrick Ewing, like Edey and Klingon. I'm like, no, don't disrespect Akeem and Patrick Ewing like that. I know it's two big men, but those are two special big men that transcended in the NBA, college and NBA game. But I saw that, I kind of was like, nah, that ain't it. That ain't the comparison we want to do here. But I'm curious now that this is done where Edie goes and where Klingon goes, because Edie, I
So,
think if he had like a mid-range jumper, he doesn't have that touch yet. But if he developed that touch, I think that would help him. And I could see him coming off the bench because he's not a stiff 7'4". He can move and he's strong. Like you watch him back in, like he was knocking Klingon back like
mhm.
a foot every time he banged into him. Every time I'm like, is that an offensive foul or is that just him being strong? Just as strong as he is. So thanks again, March Madness. You always, every year, you make my March and early April great. And just want to say thank you for that. And one shining moment as always. So,
And Danny, on to Formula One, and where circuit was actually in Japan this past Sunday for the Japan Grand Prix, and there's no difference in here, man. Max Verstappen wins again. Starting to become boring. I will say though, Ferrari is the closest team to Red Bull car wise. It's interesting though to see who's going to be second, third, and fourth, or the battle there. But I don't see anybody really getting with Red Bull. They're too far out there. So again, with 1-2 finish with Verstappen and also Sergio Perez, um, Carlos Sainz saying that Sainz is for Ferrari became third, and so I don't know. I think Mercedes is in trouble right now in the Constructors' Cup. They are fourth. Um, and keep in mind, this is only the fourth race. They have plenty more to go, so there's opportunity to make up here. But I think it's time for Mercedes to make some improvements to their cars. Otherwise, they can be just really at the fourth place position here. And the Constructors' Cup is interesting because keep in mind the number of bonuses or the amount of bonuses coming to these teams at the end of the year, depending upon where they place. And we're talking about multi-millions of dollars. We're not talking about peanuts here. We're talking about multi-millions of dollars. And so it's going to be interesting. There was a quote by Toto Wolff, who was over Mercedes, and he indicated that nobody's going to catch Max this year. Car's just too exceptional, and he feels nobody's going to catch Max. That says a whole lot. When the main guy on your team, in your organization, is saying nobody's going to be able to compete or catch Max. And I don't know if that's just talk to possibly, get Max to join Mercedes at some point in time. But come on, man, you're in the middle of the season.
he just started.
You already saying you're defeated. You only 4 races in.
Mm-hmm.
That says a lot. But maybe he's just being straight up and being truthful. Like, who can catch him at this juncture? So we'll see. What say you, Danny, about this race?
Yeah, Jay, Verstappen didn't crash, so Red Bull won. And that's the only opportunity I think right now anyone has. He's like head and shoulders above all these dudes, man. And to see like Sir Lewis Hamilton, like Russell was hanging in there for a while for Mercedes, and then he fell back. He ended up in 7th place, and Sir Lewis Hamilton ended up in 9th. But it wasn't even a competition. Like it wasn't even close. Like Verstappen was gone, and he was gone.
And we're talking about from Max to Sergio, a 12-second difference, close to 13-second difference. And so from Red Bull to Ferrari, okay, we're talking about close to a 32-second more than a 32-second difference
Yep.
between Red Bull and Ferrari. Come
Yeah.
on, man. You kidding me? In these races now, I look at the very beginning, at the very start,
Hmm.
lights out.
Yep.
And if to me, if you don't get Red Bull and at that point in time, the race is over. I already know who's going to be one, possibly number two at that point in time.
Hmm.
At that point, I'm just looking at okay, who else? How else do they line up here at it? And because you're not going to catch Red Bull, especially along the straight away. So
Not even on the corners, Jay,
yeah,
because Verstappen takes those turns so tight.
mm-hmm.
He's very aggressive, and a lot of these drivers can't deal with that. Yeah, I think he's just intimidating now.
And now then on to the NBA where these Milwaukee Bucks they've lost four straight. And let me just say this, in our pre-show meeting, we were going back and forth whether or not to even talk about the Bucks. Or you asked me, but if we want to talk about the Bucks, and I was, so let me just say this without looking at any stats: Bucks are in trouble. The Deer District and to Bucks Nation, listen, be prepared for us to get bounced in the first round. I really don't see this team advancing, and it's for a myriad of reasons. One, just a whole lot of drama over the course of the season. Two, the team looks tired. Three, the team looks defeated. Four, the team looks like they don't trust what Doc Rivers is telling them or what he's coaching at this juncture. Five, Dame and Giannis, they're just not hitting on any type of cylinder, in my opinion, offensively. I think it's going to take them in the off season to really kind of pull things together. But at that same token, I don't know. Five, I don't think I've missed a five. It could be six at this juncture. Giannis needs to focus in on a mid-range jumper because if we're going to have this pick and roll action with Dame, it's going to be critical that he pops. And truth be told, I think there's better pick and roll action between Dame and even Brook Lopez, or even Dame and Middleton when Middleton plays. And so I think that's something that needs to be investigated or looked into for the Bucks this offseason. 6 or 7, I don't know where I'm at right now. Doc needs to take inventory of his coaching style and look at what he needs to do moving forward. 8, the organization needs to look at how they really messed this up. They need to really take a look in the mirror. Trading Drew Holiday, huge mistake. If you, I don't know what their calculus was with regards to moving forward with Giannis and having a championship team around him. You had a championship team around him. Got rid of Drew, got rid of your big wing defender, and it shows. We don't have any defensive presence on the wings right now. That's something that's going to have to be looked at in the offseason. And I would say this too: Beasley is a great 3-point shooter, not a great defender. I think he's going to be gone. I think he's on a veteran's minimum. So we got great value out of him for that money, but we need some defenders. Hell, the way that UConn played, we can get some of those defenders. The Bucks got some big problems, and that's why I believe they're going to be bounced in the first round. Sorry to go on a tangent, Danny, but it just frustrates me because we had a championship squad, and it has just been totally busted up. And at this juncture, I kind of feel like now's the time to trade Middleton. I've been one of those saying keep Middleton, but at this juncture, trade Middleton, see what you get. You're going to have some people who come off the books this year. You got to rebuild this team. What say you, Danny, about these Milwaukee Bucks?
Well, Jay, you hit on most of it. I just look at it, and the crazy part about this whole thing is they're still in the second spot. After all this and how they've been playing, they're still sitting in the second spot by a game over the Magic and the Knicks right now. So the Knicks and Magic are tied for a game behind them, and Cleveland's a game and a half behind them. So there's only 4 games left. So there is a possibility it could be some shakeup here. I know Milwaukee plays Boston tonight. So that'll be a big game. You know, Boston always tries to bring it against Milwaukee.
Mm-hmm.
But then you got to also look at, man, with all of this, you know, stemming back to the Drew Holiday trade that you mentioned, Giannis's hands are all over this. They're all over this because he wanted Dame Lillard and he wanted Adrian Griffin. So as much as the front office has to take accountability for what's going on now, Giannis is right there with him. Can't leave him out the mix as he, you know, is trying to dictate some things, and
Sure. Yep.
And it's kind of backfiring. But you know, the playoffs are a different beast, so you never know. I know they're limping into the playoffs right now, and they could possibly face the Heat or the 76ers, which is not ideal. Not ideal at all, but we'll see, because some things can shuffle in these last couple of games too, where they may not end up matching up if they fall apart and then the Knicks or Magic overtake them. But all in all, man, it's just been one thing after another. Doc doesn't seem to have the answers. He doesn't seem like he can aspire. And that's the crazy part about this whole thing, because the Bucks have Doc Rivers signed for what? How many more years? 4? Somewhere in there?
I think 4 altogether, yeah.
Yeah, so something's going to have to get figured out, because you're paying him a lot of money. You're paying 3 coaches this year, and you got to figure that out, because I don't know if he needs to change some staff as well. So, you know, basketball personnel, but then also coaching personnel, they need to change. I'm not sure how that will work, because I'm sure Doc's guys are Doc's guys, but it's obviously not working. And if he's having problems, they need to have some time to figure this out over the offseason. But we'll see once the playoffs kick off how this all shakes out and who they match up with in that first round, and kind of see how they're playing as they finish the season off in these last 4 games.
Thank you for joining us at Back Porch Talk Podcast. You can also join us on Twitter by tweeting us at @back_podcast. For more information, you can go to our website, which is backporchtalkpodcast.com. You can also email us at backporchtalkpodcast@gmail.com. Again, thank you for joining us, and remember that there's enough hate in the world, so go ahead and spread a little love.